welcome. Now, if you or your learning community are working to ensure consistent, effective teaching for every student, every classroom, this is the interview for you. Now, I'm in Melbourne right now with one of my favorite leaders, Elaine, and their school did something years ago that's made a huge impact for the quality of teaching and learning, and I think it's something that you'll want to know about too. So Elaine, welcome. Thank you for doing this. So we've worked together for years now, and we go on and on about the classroom as a key to unleashing learning. And years ago, teachers didn't have their own classroom. So what was the thinking years ago about teachers not having their own classroom and having to move from room to room and room?
It was the norm. It wasn't anything that teachers or even administration thought should occur. It was always expected that teachers specialise in particular areas, therefore they've got to move around. And I'll give you a good example. Those science teachers, when they were doing experiments, they would be in the science lab. If they were doing theory work, then they'd be out of the science lab. Teachers and administrators didn't think that it was absolutely necessary for teachers to have their own classroom. In fact, the thought was, if you're an excellent teacher, if you're extremely organised, then you would be able to cope from moving from one room to another.
And when we worked with you, we were talking about this for a long time about why this is so important, and you started to enact it. What were some of the barriers to ensuring everyone had their own classroom?
I don't look at it as a barrier. I often think it was a huge challenge, and the challenge was we have lots of part-timers. And you've got to ensure that you're factoring those part-timers in. It's also the limited space. At a secondary college, we don't have that much space where we could actually assign one room to one particular teacher. And the other challenge was when you start assigning rooms to teachers, you want to make sure that if one teacher doesn't have their own room and they have to share, you've got to work out the logistics and make sure the like mindset and they're in the same domain, so they've got the same stuff up on the walls. So we had to think really carefully. They were the challenges we had to start thinking about.
I know it took a long time too. You really spent a lot of time making that happen. Now it's almost the norm. What are the ways you did it? So how did you do that? So what was your process?
It certainly had to be a priority, and making it a priority was saying to the timetable, and this is what we want to happen, because you always have timetable restrictions. I can't do this, I can't do that. So you had to make it a priority and say to the timetable and work closely with the timetabler to assign rooms. But in doing that, we also wanted to make sure, here at the junior campus, we have 2 villages. And the students in one particular village would have their lockers outside that village. So we had to make sure that those staff members who were assigned to that village, that the classroom they were given was close to, the room that they were given was close to the staff room. So they're not carrying too many books over, and so they could quickly get into class, and the same with the students. So we had to make sure that was happening. We had to make sure that the part-timers were given a room and that they were assigned with a teacher who was in their domain. We had to ensure that those staff members who were sharing the same room had the same mindset. I didn't want to put a messy teacher with someone who's really particular about ensuring that the walls are just right and they've got the right word walls. And in saying that, you wanted teachers in the same domain because then they had the same things up on the wall. Exemplars, a whole lot of things had to come into play, but making it a priority was number one.
I've noticed the difference. Every time I'm here and we're working with your team, I see the difference in those rooms. What have been some of the outcomes, either from the teacher perspective or you think for students, that teachers have their own classroom now?
Well, to be honest, Will, I've seen the teaching and learning improve massively. I've seen teachers a lot happier. I've seen teachers take ownership to the room. No longer are the days where I walk into a classroom and I see graffiti on tables or chairs. I no longer see students' exemplar works ripped down off the walls. Or go into a classroom that's in an appalling state. Teachers take pride and care in their own classrooms these days, and they are able to personalise it. Staff can now set the room up in the way they want so that collaboration and cooperation can take place, and in doing that they've got seating charts. and in making sure the
I want to do a
students
happy
know.
dance about the seating charts.
Oh, and you know what? That's made a huge difference. And students know those seating charts are there for a purpose.
Yeah.
And we say right from the start, you're not in those seating plan because we don't want you to be with your friends. In
Yeah.
fact, we're basing it on because we want you to be an excellent learner. We want you to focus. I see now that teachers are engaging students a lot more.
Yeah.
They're able to go into their classroom and start preparation before the class is in. I see beautiful work up on the walls. I see students taking pride and care in their own classrooms as well. And in saying that, it's also the students' results have improved, believe it or not. So I think actually giving teachers their own classrooms has actually helped students' results.
It's why we say that the classroom, part of the Unleashed Learning system, that classroom is such an important key, and there is a system. And one of the things just to piggyback about that, what I've noticed is the teachers we've worked with have used the system, and they're so strategically set up that it's set up for success. So I just noticed the engagement levels rise when I go into those rooms.
Massively.
It's exciting.
It is very
It's exciting.
exciting. And I don't think we could ever go back, and I don't think staff would allow
No.
us to go back. So this is the way to go.
Yeah.
And if you want improvement with teachers engaging their students, with the teaching and learning to improve, with everything, have teachers have their own classrooms because it's really important.
It's really important. So let's ask them a question.
Okay.
I just am so excited about what you've done, and just on a side note, I know the effort it took to make that happen, but I've also seen teachers, the stress levels drop because they're so present with students now. So, so that leaves me a question. We want to ask you a question, and our question for you is this: do you have your own classroom? And if you do, we'd love to hear how you use that classroom to unleash learning for students. So some of the best conversations are in the blog comments below, so check those out. Elaine and I will check them out. If you aren't a member, we have a free ebook, The Ultimate Classroom Setup Guide. We'll show you exactly how to set up your classroom, that system we're talking about. They'll ease your stress, so grab that. Elaine, thank you so much for what you do.
Oh, you're
I tell you
welcome.
all the time.
Well, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have started that off. Doing
thank
the
you.
Unleashed Learning and
Thank you.
reading your book, that was a massive change for us at this school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. As always, thank you for the work you do for the world. We are both cheering you on. Here's to the classroom, and I'll see you next time.
Bye.